What is up, hobby? Boy, the light here is just absolutely trash. I don't even know what to say. My main light died on me. That's my excuse. And now I'm using the secondary light. Hopefully, this will work. Okay. Today's hobby heartbeat topic, live, and something that's just you know, been in my mind for a long time is scammers. Disgusted with them. Disgusted with scammers. I think everybody in the hobby can agree with me when I say we're disgusted with scammers. But Ziggy, what do you mean? Because I'm responding to midlife crisis. I think it's midlife sports cards, midlife crisis, midlife sports cards video on what's the biggest threat to the hobby. And I think the biggest threat to the hobby, I think what holds the hobby back, why we have not been able to break on through, is scammers. And I'm going to explain some examples. As my whole thesis of this video is that I'm referring to the fact there are people who've committed crimes against the hobby, and they're still participating in the hobby. They're still here. They're at the local card show. They're in chats. They're in Facebook groups. You might see them in breaks. And I don't know what we do about that, right? I mean, and let me give you some examples. The most important one, or the biggest one that came to my attention, I give credit to. I think it's the card guy, the real card guy, 27. I forget the gentleman's name. He does collaborate with Jeremy Lee on the auctions. He has a great YouTube channel. He did an interview, and again, forgive me for not having the gentleman's name in front of me. I don't think the names are important, but he had an interview with the guy. I'm going to use the name Frank. I like to use the name Frank a lot. He had an interview with Frank, and Frank was the guy who recently, you probably heard this, bought the 2012 Prism One of One Tom Brady. That's the first year of Prism. It's an iconic set, his black finite Prism, which I want to say, as I'm thinking about this, did they have finites in 2012 black Prism? I don't think they had. I know they didn't have them in basketball until 2013. Not really important. I guess it is important. But anyway, this guy was scammed out of roughly $400,000. If you listen to the video, he gives the details. Let's just call it $250,000. Look, anything over $1,000, in my opinion, is a lot of money to be scammed out of. Okay, I'll get back to that in a moment. And the kicker, the real, as they say, the real kick in the stomach, the thing that makes you want to throw up after you hear the guy's whole story. And I thought he should have started with this. Was the gentleman who was involved in this is not guilty of anything. He's walking free. He's not. He's still participating in the hobby. And I'll just give you a quick short story. Frank trusted Bill that Bill was going to get the money to Jenny, and Jenny was going to give the card to Bill, and Bill was going to exchange it. And Bill sent Frank a card in a box that ended up not having the card in it. But the money did make it to Jenny. So Bill just says, "Look, dude, I just passed the box to you. You know, she gave me the box and I passed it to you. I thought the card was in there. I don't know what happened." And he sent the money and he didn't get his money back. And he just played the role of a middleman, suspiciously just the role as a middleman, but has taken on no responsibility. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, dude. So my question to you, how do you swallow that? Like, is that person a bad actor? Like, I don't know. If that was me, if I was responsible for a hundreds, thousands of dollar transaction where somebody got scammed, and my simple response is, all I do is pass the package, man, and help and get the money to the guy. I don't understand that. I need to know more. But I empathize with the gentleman who told the story because he said the end. There's no justice, right? He's talked to his lawyer. They're going to try to do some stuff. But reality is, in a lot of stuff in the hobby, there is no justice. Why is there no justice? I don't know. We can get into that. Why we race to, not use a legit marketplace and the lack of trust. And I will say this real quickly. Frank and Bill had a history of doing deals together. This was by far the biggest deal that Frank had ever done with Bill. But he had done $1,000. He had built a trust with Bill. And again, this is something I'll say is that just because you trust somebody today doesn't mean you should trust them forever. Trust is fluid, right? You don't know how that person's situations have changed. Maybe you trust a guy, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, he's he's getting blackmailed for a gambling debt, or he's some cartel shaking him down, or he's got a crazy ex-girlfriend, or you never know. Okay. The next story I want to talk about. Did I bring my bottle of water with me down here? Oh man. And we're live, so we're not going to stop. Oh, there we go. Okay. The next story I talk about, and I'll come back to the first one, was from Brandon's Baseball Cards. A big fan of Brandon's Baseball Cards. He does, he focuses on repacked. I'm sorry, not repacks. I didn't mean to say repacks. Brandon focuses on sealed vintage packs, and he collects those cello packs, blaster packs. I'm not a pack person. Different packs from vintage. He loves to collect those. And he gave a story about a guy in one of the groups apparently had a whole bunch of packs of vintage baseball. He tried to get them authenticated by Baseball Card Exchange, and Baseball Card Exchange came back and said, no, I can't authenticate them, which means these packs were probably tampered with, might have been resealed wax packs. They might be legit, okay? But BCCE or whatever said, no, we can't give you a certification on that. Brandon mentioned that normally they charge you for that certification. They charge you to tell you, hey, this is bad. But the guy hasn't been doing that. Maybe he should, because by charging somebody, I don't know. He goes into in more detail, but it was just a really interesting story because he didn't charge him for it. So this guy now, who knows these packs are legitimately not authentic or not BBC, BCC, BBBB, BBBB, you know what I'm talking about? They're not certified by him. This guy's now trying to resell the packs. So again, it's one of those areas of like that gray. So did you repack them and you tried to get them through to get, the seal, and then it didn't work, and now you're trying to sell? There's so many. And is this guy a scammer? I don't know. Is he a scammer, or is he just innocent? And is he, like, some people are like, maybe people just want to buy the packs for nostalgic reasons. I don't know. Maybe. But I do know, again, we watch things like this happen, right? And in fact, another example, the guy who was trimming cards on camera, right? You might be witness to seeing a card being altered in a video online or in a private Facebook group or whatever, and then later on, you see that card graded. You're definitely not a scammer, but man, that's just this hobby. That is this hobby. That's what blends this area. Like, I think part of what my point there is that we've conditioned ourselves to watch bad stuff happen and turn the other cheek. Right? I mean, there's certain things that are like straight up, you don't do that, and you stop people. And there's other things I think we're like, well, I don't know, trim in the corner, everybody does that. It's just so my last well, it's my last one. The one I have notes here for. And I want to say real quickly, I want to ask, what is the solution? Right? I don't know what the solution is when we have these people who are involved in these gray, like, I'll give you another quick one just because I'll do a little name dropping as well. In fact, I won't use names, but I'll just use some personas. There is an individual who's well known in the hobby who was involved in a repack product back in the middle 2015, 2012, 13, 14, 15. And it was basically, he was building the repack as he was selling it. So it's a very, very shady practice to do. That not criminal, nothing illegal. Many, many big names supported him and helped him in his enterprise, but it did come out that, hey, he was involved in this really, really shady repack product. And I want to say it was stuff like that, repacks in I'll call it the teens, right? Between 2015, 2018, 19, that were really shady because they were taking advantage of ignorant people, right? Like the checklists were not legit. Like, I remember seeing this one thing. God, I don't want to get this wrong. I think there was a product called the bar card, and in the first few releases, it was a really good product. And then, like, I think the company got bought by somebody else, and like a bar card came out, and I remember it looked like someone's high school project with taped and spit together a patch here and an autograph there. It was an awful, awful product. But my point to all that is that during that time, people kind of rebelled against repacks. They didn't see repacks as being good because of all the bad activities, right? The stolen cards, alter cards, and repacks. Right. Then you had 2020 come, different set of eyes. I've always been skeptical of repacks because I still think there's too much negativity, too many bad things going on there, and I'm concerned about that. But as it has been now commercialized, as you now have organizations like Court.io and Courtyard.io and Arena Club and Fanatics, I'm hoping now they do a better job in tracking the sourcing of their product. They track the serial numbers of the product, the patches, so we actually can kind of legitimize this and maybe get rid of the scummy past, right? The hobby. Okay. My last quick story here. This is kind of the one that I just don't know what to do with. Personally hit me, and if you've made this long in my video, 9 minutes and 45 seconds, I really appreciate your thoughts and feedback on this. Last year, I partnered with a friend of mine. Should I use his name? I'm going to use his first name. His name is Drew. Um, he's very, very well known in the hobby community. I partnered with him because of that, his access to people, his knowledge, the things he could do. He was on the Whatnot platform. Um, and basically, I was able to, I'll just say it loosely, start breaking with him as being my breaker. And I was going to, help him. He's going to train me on Whatnot. And we have this exchange, how to build out a breaking business together. Um, we probably partnered last year, probably in October, November of last year. October, November of last year. And I've known Drew for a good 5+ years, knew him before COVID. Rode, was involved with him. In fact, I'll just mention Drew was one of the founders of Hobby Hotline. Um, I mean, one of the original OGs of a Hobby Hotline. He also had several other podcasts and did a lot of other content in sports cards. So you probably know who Drew is. I knew who Drew was. And again, like I said, when I partnered with him, one of the things that was important to us, I think there were a lot of scams going out there and, bad breakers and stuff like that. And my involvement with the breakers I work with, we're very critical about who we work with. So Drew, I felt like I vetted him. I knew him. I also didn't see anything bad about him, right? He wasn't posted in any user groups. He wasn't on any scammer websites. And we're talking last year, October, November of 2024. In fact, October 22nd, 2024, almost a year ago, 10 months ago, he was on Hobby Hotline. On there, I think with John and a couple other people. What's up, Stukes? So again, supporting my interest of John, that Drew's a good guy. Anyway, short story. I partnered with Drew December 23rd, 24th. No, in fact, it was before that. December, a couple of my partners reach out to me and tell me, hey, Ziggy, I'm getting messages from this guy. I'm not going to use these people's names. Frank 1 and Frank 2, that Drew's a scammer and Drew's got some problems. What's going on here? So I'm like, well, who sent this to you? Right. So, they send me the information and I reach out to Drew. I'm like, Drew, do you know what the heck's going on? He's like, no, man, I don't know what this is. There's people that don't like me. If there's anything you need, let me know. So I've known Drew, and I'll say this too. I'm very, very passionate person. And if you back me, I'm going to back you. So I tracked down the two people that were, in fact, there was one person at first, and I introduced second person. So Frank 1, I tracked down Frank 1, who reached out to my partners, and I sent Frank 1 a message saying, hey, I'm ZiggyNo. I'm working with Drew, and these are my partners. You got a problem with them? Talk to me right now. Let's call. So we got on the phone. And short story. This person made a bunch of accusations about Drew that were shocking to me. And as a friend of Drew's, I didn't believe them. I was defensive of it. In fact, to be brutally honest, and I'm saying this on video, and I'm going to definitely make this short, I was angry. I said some very mean things to Frank. I accused Frank of just, being bullshit. Like, if this is true, where's evidence? Blah, blah, blah. Drew's a good guy. People like, blah. I was furious, dude. And I felt like it was an attack on Drew and it was an attack on me. And then especially, I was like, why did you go to my partners, not me? So Frank 1 introduced me to Frank 2, and I knew Frank 2. I'll say that's another thing. So I knew Frank 2 from previously working with Frank 2, and I was shocked when Frank 2 was validating what Frank 1 had told me about Drew. I was like, are you freaking kidding me? So on the 24th of December, Christmas Eve last year, I spoke to Frank 2. We did a big exchange of messages, DMs, and I'll just give you some quick background. He provided me evidence of allegations made against Drew where legal actions are being taken. That it all traced back to July of 2024. So over a year ago, July of 2024, there was an incident where Frank 2 had accused Drew of stealing. And legal stuff's going on, interstate stuff's going on. Frank 2 shared that information with me, and I appreciate that. And I was humbled because I was an asshole. Because I was an asshole to Frank 1, I was an asshole to Frank 2, and I'd also put my partners in a bad situation working with somebody who apparently looked like they were in heat, right, in a bad light. So I will say I contacted Drew and I said, look, dude, I don't know what to tell you. He gave me his side of the story that he's countering and this is bullshit and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, look, I've known you a long time and I did go to bat for you. I basically put my name out there for you. And I'm now looking like I'm wrong because the evidence is looking against you. So I'm going to ask that we just kind of part ways. Give me back what you can. Let's separate. I will say I drove down, met Drew at his home, got back most of everything. I wasn't made whole, but as I said earlier, I said anything over $1,000 is a big debt. It was under that, and I've kind of moved on. I think there's bigger issues to worry about. Took that burden though. I did make my partners whole. In case you guys are wondering, or my partners watch the video, I covered the missing product, the discrepancy in product, I guess is what I should say. I shouldn't say it missing. Anyway, it sucked. It was right around Christmas. I mean, it was the day before Christmas, and I saw him after Christmas. Right, I think I went down between Christmas and New Year's, and he was pretty upset with everything, and was cordial with me and said, he's going to clear his name, and I was like, I hope you do, dude. I do what you got to do. The Frank too told me, he said, he also went public with this information on other user groups and community stuff, and he did it around Christmas because I want to make Drew have a bad Christmas, and oh man. I say all this because I was caught up in this, man. It made my Christmas last year a bad Christmas. Okay, I really was. I was really just a guy in the hobby, working with other people in the hobby, just trying to get some hobby stuff done, and boom, fireworks bomb goes off. After that, this is again last December, and it is now August of this year. For a couple months, I would reach out to Drew, see how he was doing, if something I could do, if there's any status on his side, what was happening. I also reached out to Frank 1 and 2. And they provide more evidence that things are moving on their side, yet slowly. I've kept my finger on that pulse, and I've thought back about it a lot. Like, what should I have done differently? What could I have done differently? What will I do differently moving forward? I don't know moving forward because I thought I did a good job of vetting that person when I picked him on my team. I guess my point to this is that I still see Drew interacting somewhat in the hobby. I actually spoke to Frank too about it, and he said he's actually contacted some of the card shows in the community where Drew is to let them know about his pending statuses, and is still continuing to press the issue with Drew. Will there ever be a resolution? I don't know, man. I don't know. I bring this up again. I go back to what can we do to make this solution better? As I said when I started this video, I think the thing holding back the hobby is we have too many bad actors that are just bad actors, and there's no real recourse. Like, is this person really going to ever? I can't even go into the details, but there's just so many cases where no, there's no justice. Let's talk back Disney, the Dallas card show, right? The heist that took place there. Over a year ago, right? Wasn't it over a year ago? Didn't you think that there'd be an arrest by now? I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong about it all because I really am excited. I was watching a sports card radio talk about, man, you should be excited about the hobby. I agree. I've been in the hobby, a while since I've been back, and I think it's only gotten better. It really has. It's gotten better. But the thing that I think has held it from being great is we've got to clean up the negativity. And I'm not talking about people who are exposing the negativity. I'm talking about the negativity. Oh, last thing I'll comment. My gosh, the $13 million card that was purchased. That's a sweater right there with a big string hanging on the side. If you pull that string, what happens to that sweater? If you know, you know. That's all I'll say. What the F, man? Is regulation the answer? If it was, dude, I would apply to run the sports card regulators board because I think I could do a lot to help make it a great place because it is a great place, but there is no regulation coming. There is no regulators board. I don't know. Talked a little bit longer than I wanted to. I don't have people that are still there. Thank you for checking in and listening. I do appreciate you. But that's my thoughts on kind of the dark, the biggest threat to the hobby.